Your life is trying to say something through you. But most people spend their entire lives being distracted, being blocked, really not even connecting to this understanding that is trying to come through every single human life. What I'm going to explore in this video is what is your voice here to actually express and what has been keeping you from it. I have some notes. My intention is to do as little editing as possible for this video. Owning your voice is such a key piece of finding your purpose, of finding your joy, of finding a level of fulfillment that is unique to each individual, but that feeling is very universal. And a lot of what we see in the world, a lot of the dis-ease in the world, a lot of the divisiveness, what's really rooted in a lot of that are obviously individuals, but what's missing in the individuals are so many people that are not connected to their own voice, to their sense of their own purpose, to why they are here, to the message that's trying to come through their life. The things that are keeping most of us from knowing our voice and experiencing our voice and practicing our voice are the societal constructs, the messages. And it's coming through our cultures and our families and our religions, because this has been going on for centuries, censoring and limiting and blocking the freedom of expression. I remember being in elementary school and hearing for the very first time the word conceited. I don't remember who was there. I just remember exactly where it is on the school playground. I was in the area where the jungle gym area part is. I was with some kids, and at some point someone said, "Don't be conceited." And I don't know if they told me what that word means, but I'm sure if I didn't, I knew when I got home and asked my mom. But what the message I took was, do not be self-important. Do not be proud. Do not celebrate. Do not really express yourself, because you might then threaten, you might offend somebody. You might come off as conceited, which I heard was thinking you're so great, thinking too much of yourself. To hear that in elementary school was literally the beginning of then my story of censoring, editing, learning how to shapeshift, because we all want, it's a very primal need to want to belong, to want to be a part of. I'm sure you have your own story. This is not limited to me and my story. I'm just sharing what was my experience because perhaps it's relating to something that you experienced. What fascinates me about that is how that word is still something that I know is limiting me, and I'm continuing to see it and call it and name it and practice moving beyond it. But the conditioning is so deep because of how long it's existed and how much in a way that's very much a universal, the editing, the pushing down, the not allowing the human to be fully expressed because that was threatening certain people or threatening a select few, and that select few often was controlling the societal experience. And that should not stop you from doing everything you can to become connected to practice, to learn more, to test out, to become connected so that you can then actually lead yourself into becoming the most fully expressed version of who you are meant to be. That looks different for everybody. It shows up in different ways. And I'm going to share with you a couple of ways that you can practice and consider might be ways to support you in connecting more and practicing more and inviting more in your own expression. I guess I do need these glasses. So I love asking this question of what is your medium? We've also been told this idea that artists who are like fine artists, who are the ones that have stuff in the museums, or I mean, there's so much more art being shared and expressed in the world with online, and not just online media, but the access and the distribution that has happened from the internet. And there was also this idea that only certain people are artists. Everybody is an artist. Anyone that is attempting to create and bring forward their own expression in whatever form it is basically creating art. And at the end of the day, nobody can be the arbiter of your expression but you. There might be people that try. There might be people in your life that you feel like has that kind of control or impact on you, but you can decide to stop that. You can decide to remove yourself. You can decide to not continue to give that, whatever it is, that power, but it's a conscious choice. So, my question for you is, what is your medium? What is the message that's trying to come through your life? Because I can guarantee you there is definitely more than one, but there is a central message that you came here to bring. There is a signature message that your life, your experience, your being here is intended to bring into this planet and this experience, no matter where you are in the world. And your opportunity and your job is to cultivate that, to, if there is a severed connection, to find your way back, to mend that, is to play in that, is to practice it. A lot of artists that have been trained or gone to school for art, like fine art or graphic art, they have a way that they do their art, but many artists now are doing so many different ways expressing things. There are artists that are like painters, and then there's sculptors, and they're working with metal. Like, there's not one dimension of expressing. And I'm sharing that as an example, but your art might be writing. Your art might be orchids. Your art might be consciousness. Your art might be human development. But I'm telling you, there is a message coming through your life. Make no mistake about it. This is part of every single human journey. So I'm inviting you to take an active stance in connecting with, cultivating, and bringing forward more and more your message, your medium. And let yourself explore, let yourself play in that, let yourself test the waters. Do it in community, do it privately, try all the ways. And I would offer that you likely already know what your message is. You likely already know what you're called to. And there's so much bullshit and story and ideas about what's okay and not okay that likely there are potentially many layers of blockage for you in experiencing that, whether it's a belief, whether it's an idea, whether it's a message you received, whether it's you might think of it as finances, time, family. There's all kinds of ways that we establish stories about what is a legitimate reason not to move into our message, into owning our voice. And I'm just going to let you know, because there's millions of evidence of this. It can be an and, not an either or. And you can start by owning and then honoring that this is true for you. I do have some notes here. One of the things, the main message that I believe is attempting to come through you is often coming through the many themes of your life. And for so many of us, that can come through our experience of suffering, of where we have struggled, of where we have had a lot of pain, or where we have had a lot of grief or misunderstanding, where we've struggled in our own life. I mean, it can happen so many different ways, and I'm going to share a couple of examples with you. The point being is that it's not necessarily coming to you on a silver platter, and it's not meant to be something that's perfect and rosy and beautiful. It's because actually, I mean, that phrase, the tortured artist, or there's a lot of like what do they call it, narrative around artistry and artists and the artist experience. And I would offer that a big piece of that is because we're not living in a world that really supports that. And that was actually left to just a few. And there's always these controlling forces happening in the world that also create so much noise and so much distraction. And here's the thing, your message is not meant just to support and help you. Your message is meant to make a contribution in this world, in this collective space. Your message, your body of work, your voice is here to contribute to this humanity, to this society, to this time and space that you happen to be a part of, that you were born into, and that you were here to add your part, your fingertip. But you have something unique to you that is meant to be expressed, that is meant to be shared, and it's meant to be part of your contribution while you are here. A couple of examples that I wanted to share are somebody as pronounced and profound as Martin Luther King Jr. He clearly had a message, and he was using his voice and his life. He owned his voice. He owned his message. And think about if he had not honored his message. Think about if he had not owned his voice, despite the odds and the consequences. He became somebody that's famous and all these things that he had created because of his taking action, not because he had something that you don't have or anybody doesn't have. He just became determined, and that his life's work was something he chose to take very seriously. I was trying to find this woman on social media and I couldn't find her, but there's a woman, she recently actually even did a TED Talk or TEDx talk, but she's quite popular on social media. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers. Her name is Amy, Aimee, and if I find her, I will add her and a link to her profiles below. She is somebody, she's a writer and she's published books. I think she maybe has had some bestsellers. I don't know off the top of my head, but she has been relentless in driving the message of make your art. In all the ways, she speaks to all the ways that we get in our way and make stuff up that gets in the way of us making our art. And that's clearly been her message. And that's what she's here. She's a writer, but she's really here to be the example and be the messenger of make your art. Do not stop. Keep going. Look, zone out all the BS. I'm sure she has her own struggles and she had to get there on her unique path. Another example, without sharing a specific name because I don't have permission to share this, but I know people that have struggled deeply, lifetime, with addiction. And their entire life became being of service in the addiction recovery world. How many countless lives they've helped save and rehabilitate through, not by themselves, but through using their very painful message, their very painful life experience to use it, to turn it into their message, their contribution. Those are some examples. The point that I wanted to make was to share a couple of examples that demonstrate, yes, we are living in a world that does do a lot to block us being connected to our form of art, our message, owning our voice. But that doesn't mean we have to say yes. And there are so many ways that experience and that unfolding, even the path to get there, is all part of it. So no matter what your story is, no matter what you feel is, you might be thinking, yeah, but my situation is this, or I've gone through this, or I don't have access to this, or I've had my own limiting ideas about what is really truly obstacle for me, or feeling very much like I had to, continue to stay a certain form so I could stay within the corporate sector and make sure I could stay employed. And I know that that is not unique to me. I still get to decide if that is going to be the arbiter of me landing in my own purpose, owning my voice, and seeing my message through. Ultimately, the message of this video is no more self-abandonment. Stop the abandoning of self. You are not serving anyone by not living to your fullest expression. The heart of this, the heart and the inspiration behind this video is the layer of challenge I am personally walking through right now, that I have been confronted with in ways that I honestly did not realize how layered the conditioning is and has been on me editing what I really have to say, what I really want to say, in all the ways that life's challenges. I don't mean this actually as a victim. I think this is designed this way so that in this case, I can become more willing to own my voice. But there have been plenty of challenges in my entrepreneurial path that have actually created the conditions for me to continue to disown my voice and my message. Just even all the advice of setting up an online business. And ultimately, my message here is your willingness to own your voice, to prioritize and honor your expression, is not only the thing that provides you the deepest level of fulfillment, it also is your contribution to this world. For so many reasons. It might be that what you actually do is going to directly help other people. It might be that you support, that part of your work is supporting another or another group to do that. It might be about shifting constructs or cultures. It might be about bringing more access for certain things. It might be something that you bring that is not even realized until after you're no longer here. But here is the thing that is the most important, that has nothing to do with the actual outcome. It's the vibration that you are emitting when you are choosing to honor your life, when you are choosing to honor and regard your own expression as important, as worthy of your time and attention. When you make that decision, you are emitting a frequency. Well, first of all, you are going to uplift yourself. Anytime, that's a clue, by the way. Anytime you're feeling inspired, like you're like, whew, you feel like a rush of inspiration, something gets you, that's feedback. That's trying to link you to part of why you are here. It might be a direct link to your message and to your expression. But when you are inspired in that way, it is literally feedback. It's your soul trying to make contact with you through experiences and through situations of which you often made choices and decisions that placed you in. So always follow those, and don't just follow them and become curious about them. Become curious about what is it about that, whatever it is, that's drawing you in. What is it trying to tell you about you? What is it trying to help you understand or see more deeply? Not just your interest in that thing. It's like I found art. I did art history in college, I remember, and thinking it was so over my head and I was so intimidated by it. And I remember going to Europe years later, backpacking and seeing things that I studied and being like, whoa, that's so cool. And the fact that I learned a little bit about it in college made it even more cool. But because I didn't grow up around a lot of the arts and I didn't grow up with a lot of financial resources, I felt very inferior in many years of my life. And then fast forward, many, many years later, I'm living in Manhattan at one of the most amazing roles that I got to have in my earlier career. I'm living in the West Village of Manhattan for 4 years, helping to build a startup. It was incredible. When you live in Manhattan, you're like immersed in life, in all kinds of life. And I feel like I became an adult in a whole new way there. But I became aware of how much I appreciate the arts. And as soon as I stopped pretending like I had to see something or I had to read every placard or whatever, I just started listening to my body and how I felt like I came alive. Then I leaned into that. And then I started getting curious about, why is that? Why am I so curious about that? That's what I'm talking about. So I have 3 things for you to do that are my recommendations on how you can take this message into your life as soon as possible. The first one is, whenever you're listening to this video, my highest encouragement is that as soon as you end this video, you stop and you write down, unedited, what is your message? And it's quite possible you might be like, I don't know. I would offer that there's something that you do know. Whatever it is, keep it between you and your own heart, but write it down. Whatever clues you have, maybe you know exactly what your message is. I want you to write it down. The second thing might take a little bit more time and thoughtfulness and contemplation. If you want to step more fully into owning your message and your voice, I want you to remove one thing from your life that is blocking you. That could be a habit. That could be a belief. That could be a person. That could be a group. That could be a space that you find yourself in that actually every time you're there or around it, it drains your energy. You don't have to make that wrong. You don't have to create a story about it. You don't have to explain yourself. But I want you to pick one thing and complete it. Pause it. Pause it. You don't have to rip a Band-Aid off. I'm just inviting you to make that decision to support you in creating a space for you to step more fully into what I'm talking about here. Because that is often what is in our way. There are habits, practices, people, situations, places that we are giving our precious energy and time to, and it's like you're leaking your life force to that. So I'm inviting you to consider that. That's the second thing you can do. And the third thing is to shift in some way that you can measure. I don't mean like ongoing, but in some way, shift your intake of all of this. Shift your intake of social media, of the news, of programming, of TV. Shift your intake of any kind of this intake that doesn't allow you to be in the 3D experience. Shift it in some way that you can see and measure. This isn't about becoming someone new. This isn't about finding your voice. It's about no longer leaving it behind. Until next time.